So the ThinkPad X9, completely new range of ThinkPad, and it's not every day that Lenovo adds a new line to their business range. Well, if you're looking for a portable laptop for light use, overall this is a very good one. The X9's most defining feature is that it gets a lot of the little things right that most manufacturers they just ignore. It has a great display with a very effective anti-reflective coating. Its haptic trackpad is excellent, its speakers are surprisingly good, and its webcam absolutely floored us with how good it is. If we were to point out the negatives though, it is a little pricey for what it is, and you may hear some fan noise in a dead silent room. But I think the thing that will surprise most people about this laptop is that it just doesn't look and feel like a ThinkPad. It comes across more as a very high-end yoga. There is no red track point, the keyboard layout is different, it has less ports, and its build quality just doesn't feel as premium. It's certainly not bad, but it's just not ThinkPad level. With that said, here's Sierra to walk you through the details.
Thanks, Josh. Since these ThinkPads are often purchased by programmers, let's look at how it performs first. We've reviewed many Lunar Lake laptops on this channel, and they are not the strongest performers. In Geekbench, which tests a variety of common performance tasks, like unzipping a file, it does a little worse than the ZenBook S14, which is one of our better performing Lunar Lake laptops. In Cinebench, which tests the processor when it's maxed out, it now becomes very clear that this is one of the poorest performing Lunar Lake laptops, and modern laptops as a whole. This is enough performance for basic web browsing and office applications, but anything more intensive is not going to be a fun time. In graphical tasks, we see it perform on the lower end of Lunar Lake laptops, but it still does pretty well. Using TimeSpy, our DirectX 12 gaming benchmark, you'll notice that its graphics score is solid, but its CPU did the worst among similar chips. We retested this and got a slightly higher result the second time, shown here. This lines up with our other CPU benchmarks we just showed you. It's simply not a strong performer. In Wildlife Extreme, which is cross-platform and therefore available on macOS, it still does pretty well as far as integrated GPUs on processors go, but it is beat by the cheaper MacBook Air with the older M3 chip. When evaluating high-performance tasks like CPU and iGPU benchmarks, we take measurements of heat and fan noise to demonstrate how enjoyable it would be to use the laptop for these more intensive tasks. During our Cinebench benchmark, it gets a little warm on the keyboard deck and underside both, a little lower than some competing laptops. Its fan noise, on the other hand, is on the louder side for similar laptops, which is disappointing. In TimeSpy, our gaming benchmark, it gets a bit warmer on the keyboard deck than it did in Cinebench, but it looks like its fan noise is more tolerable. In real-world use, if you are in a somewhat quiet office and you're doing something like installing a program, you will definitely hear the fans going, even on the laptop's balance mode. We also noticed that in a dead silent office when writing the script for this video, at times the fans would still come on. They were very quiet, but were there. Let's now look at battery life. The ThinkPad X9 does about average in this regard as well. We start by checking that the laptop can maintain its performance on battery, which it can. The AMD Ryzen laptops are really the only ones that appear to struggle with that here. Next, we check how much it drains the battery when doing a high-performance task, like running Cinebench on a loop for 30 minutes. Here we see that the X9 drains about a third of its 55 watt-hour battery. This is comparable to the similarly sized battery in the X1 Carbon, but not as strong of a result as some other ones on our list here, like the ThinkPad T14S, which we've established does lower its performance significantly during this test. Taking a look at a lighter use case of streaming a movie for 4 hours over Wi-Fi, the X9 does well here, only being beaten by laptops with much larger batteries, like the MacBook Pro and ZenBook S14. Lastly, we do a full battery rundown by playing a downloaded movie on a loop until it dies. It does okay here, but sits a little on the lower end, lasting only around 15 hours, which is less than most of its competition. The battery life, like most of the other aspects of this laptop so far, is pretty middling. The chassis has a simplistic look to it, which looks nice enough, but also pretty boring. It doesn't pick up fingerprints almost at all thanks to its coating. You can also open the lid with one hand, while the hinges are still stiff enough to utilize the touchscreen without pushing it backwards. The chassis itself is mostly made of recycled aluminum, which makes it feel all around sturdy and well built. It also weighs less than most of its 14-inch competitors, only heavier than the MacBook Air, ZenBook S14, and the much more expensive ThinkPad X1 Carbon. Its charger is also super light and compact, which is a nice bonus. Many of these heavier laptops do feel much more premium and perform much better though, like the MacBook Pro, Slim 7X, and OmniBook Ultra. There's also a bit of deck flex which you can feel when pressing down a little harder on the keyboard, which we normally don't see on ThinkPads. Its build quality is overall good enough, but again, nothing outstanding. The display will depend on which configuration you purchase, but the one we have has the nicer screen option of the two, and we found it to be quite pretty. Instead of a 1920 by 1200 60Hz panel, Ours is a brighter 2.8K 120Hz glossy OLED touchscreen with an anti-reflective, anti-smudge coating. We measured its brightness at over 520 nits, which is good. The anti-reflective, anti-smudge coating is really effective on this laptop. This, combined with its brightness, will mean that reflections are almost a non-issue unless you're outside. I found myself running the screen at 80% and finding it plenty bright enough. We also found that it offers a wide color gamut, covering 100% of sRGB and P3. One of the only downsides I found about the display is that it has a pretty obvious screen door effect when looking closely at light-colored content, like writing this script in Word. That means I can see colored pixels peeking through, and it looks a little bit like looking through a screen door. Sometimes this effect is exacerbated by the anti-reflective coatings put on glossy screens, so that could be the case here. Next is the keyboard. This is probably the biggest change for this new ThinkPad. It's totally different to other ThinkPad keyboards, more akin to a consumer laptop. Many buyers are going to be disappointed here, because ThinkPad keyboards are pretty good and probably didn't need to change. So, here's the changes. The most noticeable one is that the red track point is gone. This has the benefit of allowing the trackpad to be larger because it doesn't need to fit the left and right buttons to support the track point. Let us know whether you like this change with a comment below. Next, the layout is different. For example, we don't have dedicated page up and down keys, and the delete key is shifted to the left to make room for the power button fingerprint reader. On the removal of the page up and down keys, Josh actually likes this, as they are often squished up against the arrow keys and he tends to mispress them. Also, this keyboard feels noticeably lower travel at 1.35mm versus the X1 Carbon's 1.5, but it still feels alright to type on. Oddly enough, the function keys are also absolutely tiny, like little squares instead of rectangles. Next, the keys have this slanted edge to them versus the slightly chiclet style of most ThinkPads. The backlight also does not seem to get very bright. Even in a darker room on max settings, I didn't feel like the keys were illuminating much, almost like the white lettering was more opaque than you'd want. There is also some backlight bleed around the keys, where it felt like the light around the keys was getting brighter than the light behind the letters. Now, onto the trackpad, which I feel is going to be a selling point for a lot of people. Even if you buy the lowest end configuration on Lenovo's website, starting around $1,200, you still get a haptic trackpad. I found it to be enjoyable, and I really appreciated how large it was. Despite its size, I didn't struggle with palm rejection at all, which was very good. Overall, I think it's a win that you can get an affordable ThinkPad with a haptic trackpad right now. The only other Lunar Lake laptop in this price range with one is HP's OmniBook Ultra Flip, and that one struggles with palm rejection, and it has a much worse keyboard. Ports on this laptop are a bit limited, but it is nice to see that there is a Thunderbolt 4 port on either side, so you can plug in your charger or dock to whichever side is more convenient. In addition to that, there is an HDMI 2.1 port on the left and a headphone mic combo jack on the right. This is another big difference between this and other ThinkPads. You are missing the USB-A port and the Kensington lock slot, which I think are both important for business users. These speakers sound wonderful. Josh's jaw dropped when he realized how good they sounded, so they might even be the best on a Windows laptop we've ever tested. They are outward-facing from a slit on either side near the bottom of the chassis. They sound powerful and have an immersive soundstage. Their only downside is that they lack bass. Take a listen.
The webcam is really good. It's got a large field of view, but colors look accurate, I look bright, I look clear, it's a 1441, it's good.
Like most ThinkPads, the chassis is easy to open with only 4 seated screws. It is attached magnetically, so it's easy to pull off the back. When you do, you'll notice there is a short 2230 SSD with a heatsink that is replaceable, and the 55 watt-hour battery is replaceable as well. The RAM is part of the chip with Lunar Lake, so that is not upgradable, and the Wi-Fi card appears to be soldered. Luckily, you get Wi-Fi 7 and Bluetooth 5.4, so you're unlikely to need to upgrade that. When testing Linux, the keyboard backlight, and trackpad were the only things that worked. Display brightness, speakers, camera, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all didn't work. Now back to you, Josh.
Thanks, Sierra. As you can hear, there are clearly a couple of middling things about this laptop. For example, it is certainly not a high-performing one. But we think that if you're just using it for basic homeschool or office use, that's going to be less important than what it does bring to the table, which is a lot of creature comforts. You can get it with a great display and an excellent webcam, it has a fantastic haptic trackpad, and its speakers sound really good. And a lot of laptops at this price point, they just don't give you that. So, overall, we do recommend it, but only if you can get it at the right price. The base model costs $1,200 with an Ultra 5 processor, 16GB of memory, 256GB of storage, and the worst 1920 60Hz display, and that has a worse webcam. For the config we recommend, which is the Ultra 5, 16GB of RAM, 512GB of storage, and the upgraded display, which also upgrades the webcam, you are looking at an MSRP of $1,450. Now, unlike most ThinkPads, this isn't that overpriced, but we still feel it's about $200 more than it should be. There are a lot of good laptops for light users at around $1,000 to $1,200, such as the new MacBook Air with M4 and HP's OmniBook Ultras. The MacBook Air M4 has a much more powerful processor, and so does the OmniBook Ultra, the clamshell model with its AMD Zen 5 chip. The OmniBook Ultra Flip has a Lunar Lake processor just like this one, and it gives you 2-in-1 capabilities. Its keyboard, though, isn't quite as comfortable, its haptic trackpad is worse, and so are its speakers and webcam. But overall, for light users, the HP OmniBook Ultra Flip, it's a similar value proposition. The closest comparable, though, to the X9, it's probably the new Surface Laptop 7 for business that has Intel's Lunar Lake processor. I personally feel that that's a better laptop. Its build quality is a bit more premium and its keyboard feels more comfortable. But it does have a little coil whine emanating from its keyboard deck. That's when it's plugged in. That laptop costs a similar amount as our recommended config of the X9, which reinforces that we feel the X9 is probably about $200 more than it should be. You can find all the laptops I just mentioned below this video and on our website. Now on that note, our website is the place to go to find laptop deals. We have a price tracker that tracks laptops across retailers, and it lets you know when they're going for their best possible price. We also set price targets on laptops just like this one, so that you know when we think they are a must-buy and an okay buy. Go check it out at justjosh.tech. It is quickly becoming the go-to place for laptop buying. With that said, I want to end with a personal ask. So few of our viewers are actually subscribed. We are all working super hard here to grow this channel. We want to produce better videos for you that are even more fun to watch with even better testing. We want to produce more videos so that we can answer every question you have. Becoming a subscriber is something free and easy that you can do that really makes a difference. It helps us grow, and that means that we can do more for you. So smash that subscribe button. Until next time, go do something awesome with your day, and we will catch you later.